Hi, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Jane from TPAS Cymru, and I'm joined here today with Andrew from Cornerstone. Hi, Andrew. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Good.
So I've known Andrew a very long time. We've worked together. Cornerstone is something I feel very passionately about. But I won't go into too much detail about me and how I know Cornerstone. I'll let the man himself say it in his own words. So Andrew, over to you. The people who don't know at home, people who may not have heard of Cornerstone, can you tell us a little bit about Cornerstone and how you came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do, we work we're a third sector organisation working with homeless people, and we're primarily funded across the Gwent Valleys and now other areas to work with rough sleepers and also non-priority prison leavers. So that's people due to be released from custody who will be released onto the street. So we work with our partners, probation, local authorities, and we make sure we do our best to get people housed on the day of release. We've got a great success rate, actually. I think it's in and around 85%.
Wow.
So yeah, we're proud of that.
Mm. That is something. It's definitely something to be proud of. And in terms of, I noticed you call you use the term rough sleepers, not homelessness.
Yeah.
So apologies that I've used homelessness, but rough sleepers. So tell me about sort of cradle to grave in terms of what you do with the rough sleepers that you find. I presume you've got a team of people who
We have.
go out and find rough sleepers.
We hope it doesn't all end up in the grave, but no. So what we do, we try to be very different. When we set this up, we wanted to flip things on its head, and that's very much what we're about. And we're not necessarily a usual comfy fit for the sector, because we do like to challenge. So what we decided to do is, the Cornerstone concept is getting rid of layers of management. We have no IT department, we have no HR department, we have no people sat in offices who take funding for their wage, as organisations do.
Yep.
Every single member of staff, whoever they are, whatever their role in the organisation, including the chief executive, our role is out on the street. So what that means is, by doing it this way, this model, we don't need to pay these other departments. So what that creates is, we can pay a wage of a middle manager, but it's that person with the knowledge on the street achieving the best results.
Okay. And what kind of size team do you have?
We're currently at 15.
Oh.
In the next few months, I believe that'll be closer to 20. Well, it certainly will. We're on a recruitment drive currently. So yeah, it's growing. We don't want to get too big, because we lose then that kind of small group passion. But it's gathering pace, should we say, because of the results.
Okay. So what support do you give the rough sleepers? How do you help them?
Well, my first, day in the life, if you want, I get a phone call 8 o'clock in the morning, and a report. It could be a member of the public, it could be the police, probation, anybody, and they say, I've seen a tent, or I've seen someone sitting in a doorway, or I think someone's sleeping outside. So what we do, our outreach team respond, go out and see the person, we go to them. So we remove the barrier of asking them to come into an office or into a setting which perhaps they feel uncomfortable with. So I literally sit in a shop doorway with a rough sleeper. It's their home. So we treat it like their home, and we approach them in a respectful way. If they don't want to talk to us, it's their space. We walk away, but we will never stop trying.
Right. Okay. And then once you have engaged with them, what's next? How do you get them from that shop doorway into
accommodation? Well, there's a whole variety of reasons. There's no two kind of journeys the same, and we try and match options to that individual's journey. So there are times we can meet a rough sleeper and we have actually housed them within 2 hours, and that's not into a hostel or a bed and breakfast that's their own flat, their own tenancy.
Wow.
That has happened a fair few times. It depends on the landlords we work with and what they've got available. More often than not, it's a longer process, but we couldn't do this without our partnerships. So what we will do, we will welfare check. It's all about well-being. Our outreach workers are highly trained, offer food, drink, warmth, items of clothing, but it's not about what we give them. We see them as an equal partner, which again is perhaps slightly different. We're not doing stuff for them. We say, what are we going to do together to change this situation if you want to change it?
And then, presumably that makes them more engaged with you because they feel that they're helping themselves.
It's higher impact. I think once you've hit that point where you're on the street, something has to change from previous attempts. And that's what I like to think my outreach team do.
I mean, for me, and I imagine the majority of people who are watching this, it's just a concept I can't understand, living on the streets, you know, and having that feeling of giving up almost. You know, I struggle to understand how you break down those barriers, because they must feel so forgotten, so neglected, so let down. They don't trust, presumably, and you've got to make them trust again.
All of those things are more, you can picture it, psychological damage. That evening, all the shops are closed, all the lights are off, and suddenly you're putting your head down to go to sleep. The psychological impact of one night is incredible. Can you imagine the impact of someone who has to do it for months and for years? So by doing the model we do, we try and catch people as early as we can, and that's where we can deliver the best success. One old chap I worked with for a number of years, sadly died now, great character, and we got talking one day, red flagged on all the systems, you know, be careful of this man, be careful of this man. And his history was horrendous, but we clicked. And I said to him, what's the worst part about sleeping rough? And the conversation was going on. And he said, you know what? He said, it's not putting your head down and going to sleep. He said, because once your eyes are closed, and you're asleep, you could be in a 5-star hotel in Dubai. He said, the difficulty, the power is waking up that first morning and realizing you've run out of people who give a shit. And I think that is what we kind of miss. It's not just that you're in a doorway. It's the very fact that you feel complete disconnect from every part of community that we take for granted.
It's just, as I say, I can't even begin to imagine what it must feel like. It's absolutely heartbreaking to listen and to, you know, to know what your team face every single day. It's so on a lighter note, you obviously have lots of successes. What do you think your overall success rate is? You've mentioned is around about 85% for the prison leavers, and for rough sleepers who found themselves, you know, in that circumstance. What do you think?
I've not got an exact figure on me, but since we started, I am confident to say that we have housed over 600 rough sleepers. And I am aware that over 85% are still maintaining that tenancy after a 12-month period.
Which I imagine is the difficulty, because they found themselves in this situation because some of them couldn't maintain a tenancy for one reason or another. They couldn't maintain it, and you know, nobody is here to judge, but they couldn't maintain a tenancy. So to be able to say, you know, 85% of the people we've housed have maintained it for over 12 months, that must be the support that your team is giving these people, because it doesn't just stop when they walk in through the front door and you hand them the key, does it?
No, absolutely. And I think this is a gap in services, not on purpose by anyone, but what we try and insist on is that once we got someone over that front door, they know us, the trust is there. So we have got specialist resettlement workers in each of our areas who have got years of experience, and they work with them intensely. Now, our funders are very flexible, because if we need to be with them 20 hours that week, the local authority are investing money in putting up a bond, the first month's rent, and making sure it can succeed. So they work with us and say, okay, do what you can, do everything you can to get everything in place so this tenancy doesn't fail. So it's trust from the local authorities in us on that regard, but it's also the expert, if you like, of that support, resettling them, getting everything set up.
Okay, so you might not be able to answer this, but why does the Cornerstone model work? Why more better than any other model? Why haven't you taken over the world, Andrew?
Well, one step at a time, Jane, obviously. But no,
Obviously.
Look, there's some great models out there. They really are. I think there's a number of issues in how things knit together. So that's why we've got a multifunctional team. So we've got from our outreach workers, often outreach is viewed as taking someone a pot noodle and a blanket and how are you?
And that's how the general public perceive what you do.
And although that may be part of what we do, it's a tiny percent because every one of our outreach workers has housing law knowledge. So if they feel this person is at particular risk and should be placed by the local authority under priority need, they have the knowledge to make that decision there and then and start that ball rolling. And by engaging that way, we have high impact, immediate impact, and that rough sleeper has confidence in what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So it's very much down to the team's
Absolutely.
passion, the team's expertise.
Totally. Yeah. I had a lot of line managers over the years, and one guy, not in this sector, very successful businessman, and he said to me, never be afraid to find your replacement. Have the balls to recruit somebody who could replace you. And that's what I've done with Cornerstone. I'm not the best housing law knowledge in the team, far from it.
What 3 things would you change in housing in Wales at the moment?
Oh, only 3.
we don't have all day, but okay.
I think the obvious first one for me would be we need to look at affordability and we need to address more affordable housing. My preference, being an old council estate boy when I grew up, would be local authorities go back to building council housing stock. It's not agreeable by everyone, but I think it's the way forward. It would just open up a whole new feeling of community again. I think it would make people feel they belong rather than being scattered so much. And it gives the local authority a bit more kind of control and input into how those properties are run. The local authority knows the issues locally. And housing associations are fantastic and they do great work, but they may not quite understand that community feel. So for me, more affordable housing, definitely, and my preference would be, say, give that power back to the local authorities to build.
Okay, great. Your next one?
Well, there's in housing law, there's something called priority need. So if you or I we lose our house for whatever reason tomorrow, we go and present to the local authority, as they call it, as homeless. And I know for a fact I would not be in a priority need group. So that's a certain number of issues. If I had, that a local authority would then have a duty to offer me accommodation. I think we need to get rid of it. I think looking at COVID and the impact, I think we need to say, if you're in need of housing, then we look to house you. It's obviously
makes perfect sense, really, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, resources are stretched. We know the difficulty local authorities are under, and I feel for the homeless officers having to say to people, sorry, you're not in priority need, knowing that they're going out that door and coming to us for a tent. So I'm not judging what they're actually saying. What I'm saying is there needs to be a system that's more adaptable to meet the need, not priority need.
Yeah.
So that's two. And thirdly is one, it's one I'm passionate about, and that is, and again, if you look at the COVID situation with the outcry for pay our nurses more, pay NHS staff more and the cleaners, affordable is a huge issue. And what we need to do is we need to, yes, housing first has its place. But for me, the percentage of people that need that level and that expense is so small. In the last 6 years, I think we've had about 340 through our night shelter schemes. Out of that, we looked at the people who came through, the vast majority housed, and there were about 12 out of those 300 plus who could have kind of qualified needing that far higher level of support and intervention. It's very expensive as a model. There needs to be others to back it up and to bridge that gap before we get there.
What areas does Cornerstone cover, Andrew? You mentioned the Gwent Valleys, but
we cover Caerphilly Borough, Torfaen Borough and Merthyr Tydfil Borough.
Right, and presumably they're the local authorities that are working with you and funding you and giving you the support that you need.
Absolutely, and those partnerships are key. We work with them on a daily basis. We're constantly having conversations. How can we adapt and utilise and meet the need? And each area is different.
Okay, great, thank you. And as I say, finally, what are you most proud of at Cornerstone, Andrew?
Wow. The very fact that we're still going is quite miraculous. No.
I know you have faced many death threats, and I know you have
that's just off the team.
Exactly, and have been in some very difficult situations, having volunteered with you for a long time. I do appreciate how hard the team work and how hard you personally work. So it'd just be nice to know really what you feel most proud of.
Well, we got the cold hard figures. Very proud of them. I never thought we would achieve that level, and I push the team all the time to achieve more and more and more. On top of that, I would say looking around at the faces of my team, knowing that they're respected, and I've helped hopefully create a vehicle for them to express themselves. We work in a no blame culture, so people can take a chance, make their mistakes, and we learn from it as a team. And seeing them with smiles on their faces most of the time. But I think what my passion actually is spotting the talent within the homeless community. And this is key for the Cornerstone concept. We need lived experience in this sector. So one guy came through night shelter 4.5 years ago. Started a bit of volunteering. He didn't have much going on in the day, did a bit of volunteering, helped me do some outreach. He is now outreach coordinator across those 3 boroughs, employed full-time, blossoming. What a talented man. Another lady came through night shelter, had been through a difficult period in her life, and she's working well and she's doing great. There are others. It's incredible to watch people flourish and grow. And I think the biggest success for me is if I stepped away tomorrow, the next generation of the whole thing is in safe hands.
It's very good to hear. It's very, very good to hear. And I know we've certainly got quite a lot of ex-service users, as we refer to them, on the team, and their passion is unrivaled, same as the rest of the team. They're an absolutely fantastic team, and a credit to you, Andrew. So
that's very nice. I mean, you think back, Jane, you helped us with a pop-up night shelter last December. And it was very quick, but we got it together. And the night shelter opens at 6 p.m. They come in, welcomed, have food, a meal cooked, go to bed, watch a bit of telly, go to bed, wake up the next morning, breakfast, and off you go. Now, what we actually created on one session there was the entire thing was run by ex-night shelter guests that have come through. And that, I think, has got to be up there as a proud moment.